I don't know why I looked out the window that night. Maybe it was the sound. The rain didn't just fall, it tapped, like fingers drumming against the glass, impatient. The street was empty except for her light, warm and gold against the gray. Her kitchen window. I'd noticed it before, of course. It wasn't the kind of glow you could ignore. But tonight, for some reason, it pulled me harder than usual. Maybe because I knew she'd be there. She always was around this hour, sleeves rolled, hair tied back loosely, moving slowly like she had all the time in the world. I leaned against my own counter, lights still off. Watching. Not in a creepy way. At least, I told myself that. But in that restless, guilty way you watch someone who makes you feel something you're not supposed to. And then, as if she felt me, she looked up. Straight through the rain, straight into me. I froze. Too late to duck. Too obvious if I pretended I hadn't been staring. My hand twitched like I might wave, but I didn't. She didn't either. She just tilted her head the smallest bit, like she was half amused, half annoyed. Then she reached for a mug, broke the gaze, and the spell snapped. That should have been the end. But 5 minutes later, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. And in the sudden quiet between knocks, I swear my heart beat louder than the rain. When I opened it, she was standing there. My neighbor. 40-something, maybe mid-40s, though the rain had smoothed her edges, drops clinging to her lashes, her jacket half-soaked. She wasn't flustered. She wasn't even smiling. She just said, in that low, calm voice that carried without trying, "It's raining. Stay inside." Not a request. Almost an order. Like she'd caught me doing something reckless. I swallowed, too aware of the dampness in the hall, the closeness of her, the faint smell of rain mixed with coffee on her clothes. My throat worked before my brain did. "Only if you stay with me." The words hung there, stupid and reckless, but I didn't take them back. Couldn't. Her eyes lingered on mine, unreadable. I thought she might laugh, or worse, shake her head and leave. Instead, she looked past me, into my apartment, the unmade couch blanket, the half-finished book on the table, the lamp still off. Like she was measuring me without asking. "You're too young to be that bold," she said finally. A faint curve touched her mouth, not quite a smile. "I'm not that young," I said softer. She stepped inside without answering, closing the door behind her. The air changed instantly, denser, quieter, as though the rain outside had sealed us into a bubble. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. She took off her jacket, draped it over the chair like she'd done it 100 times before, though she never had. I hovered, unsure if I should offer her tea, or space, or a dozen apologies for what I'd just blurted out. Instead, I said nothing. Just watched her fingers linger on the chair's edge a second too long, as if she wasn't ready to let go. That silence stretched until it wasn't silence anymore, but something else, something alive. And then, 3 short, sharp knocks. The door behind us rattled like someone urgent had arrived. Her eyes flicked to mine. Not startled, not afraid. Just searching, as if asking, "What now?" The knocks stopped as suddenly as they started. Whoever it was moved on, leaving only the low hiss of the rain outside. She didn't move from where she stood. Neither did I. "Expecting someone?" she asked, voice even, but her eyes lingered too long on me, as though searching for an answer deeper than yes or no. I shook my head. No, her gaze didn't shift. Just a faint arch of her brow, like she wasn't sure whether to believe me. Then she exhaled, slow, and dropped into the chair where her jacket lay. I sat across from her, the silence between us pressing harder than any question. She was the one to break it. "You don't know much about me, do you?" "I know you drink coffee at midnight," I said, trying for lightness. "That's enough to start with." A tiny laugh escaped her, sharp, unguarded, gone too fast. She shook her head. "That's not what I meant." Her hands folded in her lap. She didn't look at me as she spoke, like the words weren't meant for me at all. "I was married. 15 years. He left. I don't blame him, really. I was hard to stay with." Something in her tone made me sit forward, but I didn't interrupt. She went on. "I have a daughter. She's your age. Maybe younger. We don't talk as much as we should. She doesn't need me anymore." She stopped there, almost sharply, as if realizing she'd gone further than she meant to. Her lips pressed together, sealing the rest. I wanted to say something. Anything. But the weight of her confession made words feel too thin. Instead, I thought of the things I hadn't told her. The string of half-relationships I'd walked out of because I didn't know how to stay. The way my friends teased me for renting a place here, next to someone too old to ever matter to me. Too old. As if connection had an expiration date. I wanted to tell her all that, but my throat closed around it, and I only managed. You're not hard to stay with. Her eyes flicked to mine, sharp, suspicious, almost defensive. Then softer, a kind of tiredness I recognized, though I'd never worn it myself. You don't know that, she said. Maybe, I admitted, but I'd like to find out. The room felt too quiet after that, like the rain had drawn closer to listen. She shifted in her chair, and for a second I thought she'd stand, retreat, end this before it went further. But she didn't. Instead, her hand moved, slow, deliberate, resting on the table between us. Not reaching, not asking, just there. I stared at it, at the pale line where her wedding ring must have been once. My chest tightened, not with pity, but with something heavier, something that made me want to close the space between us. I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I set my hand down near hers, close enough that if either of us shifted the slightest bit, skin would touch. She didn't move away. The silence wasn't silence anymore. It was a beginning. Her hand stayed near mine, that thin line of space between us trembling with weight. My chest rose too fast, like I'd run somewhere without moving. I thought if I shifted just a fraction closer, the knock came again. Louder this time. Not hurried, but steady. She flinched, pulling her hand back as though burned. I stood, heartbeat hammering in my ears, and crossed to the door. When I opened it, my roommate, Caleb, leaned against the frame, shaking rain from his hoodie. He glanced at me, then at her, sitting composed in the chair like she belonged there, though every muscle in her body looked taut. Didn't know you had company, Caleb said. His tone was casual, but his eyes lingered too long. She's my neighbor, I said quickly. Too quickly. Her lips pressed together, and she didn't add anything. Caleb's gaze flicked between us again. Right. Well, sorry for interrupting. Just needed my charger. Left it in your room. I moved aside reluctantly, watching as he crossed the space. His steps slowed as he passed her, curiosity in his glance. He didn't say anything, but I could almost hear what he was thinking. When he disappeared down the hall, the air felt tight. She stood, pulling her jacket from the chair. I should go, she murmured. The words landed like a slap, though her voice wasn't sharp, just distant. You don't have to, I said, too quickly again. My voice caught. He doesn't. He won't say anything. Her fingers gripped the jacket harder. It's not about him. The words lingered, heavy, and I knew what she meant. It was about us. The age, the wrongness, the thing no one would understand. I shouldn't have come in, she whispered. I took a step closer. But you did. Her eyes snapped to mine, raw and searching. For a heartbeat. Everything between us narrowed down to that distance. The way her breath caught, the faint tremor in her hand. She shook her head. You're making this harder. I almost laughed, bitter. You think it's easy for me? For a moment, silence. Then, so soft I barely heard. Don't say that. Caleb's footsteps returned, breaking it. He emerged with his charger, glanced between us again, then muttered a half-hearted night before leaving. The door clicked shut behind him. We stood there, neither moving. The rain drummed harder outside. I should go, she said again. But her voice was weaker this time, almost uncertain. I moved closer, one step, then another. Close enough that I could see the drops still clinging to her hair, smell the faint trace of her perfume beneath the damp. She didn't back away. For a second, the world held its breath. My hand lifted, hesitated, almost brushing her arm. And then she stepped back, jacket clutched to her chest like a shield. We can't, she said. Not firm. Not final. Just trembling. And with that, she reached for the door. She had her hand on the doorknob when I spoke. Why do you keep running? The words came out rougher than I meant. Maybe louder, too, because she froze, shoulders tightening. Slowly, she turned back. Her eyes were tired, but not soft, defensive, sharp, like I'd cornered her. I'm not running, she said. Then what is this? I stepped closer, heat in my voice I couldn't swallow back. You come here, you sit in my kitchen, you tell me things you probably haven't told anyone in years, and then you leave like it never happened. Her lips parted, then closed. She gripped her jacket tighter. You're a kid, she whispered. And I'm. She broke off, shaking her head. This isn't something you should want. I'm not a kid. I bit down hard, every word shaking with the force I'd held back too long. I've walked away from girls my age because none, make me feel like this. The silence that followed was heavy, brutal. Her throat moved, but she said nothing. I pushed on. And don't tell me you don't feel something. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't keep looking at me like that. That landed. I saw it. The tiniest crack in her expression, the flicker of guilt and longing she couldn't mask fast enough. Her jaw tightened. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. For the first time, her composure faltered. She set the jacket down again, too quickly, as though her hands couldn't hold it anymore. She turned away, pacing to the window. Rain streaked the glass, blurring the streetlights, but her reflection was clear, shoulders trembling, head bowed. When she spoke, it was low, almost a confession. Do you know how many nights I've told myself to stop? To ignore you? To forget that stupid way you linger in the hall, like you're waiting for me to notice? My breath caught. She turned then, suddenly, eyes blazing, not soft, not gentle, but burning. And then tonight, you said that. Stay with me. Do you even know what that does to me? The room tilted. My hands curled at my sides, useless. Then don't fight it. Her laugh was sharp, bitter. Don't fight it. You have no idea what I'd be risking. Then risk it, I said, stepping closer until the air between us buzzed with heat. Because I already am. Her lips parted, breath ragged. She didn't move, didn't push me back. For a second, the whole world narrowed to that space between us, a breath away from breaking. My hand lifted, trembling, brushing a damp strand of hair from her cheek. She didn't flinch. Her eyes closed, just for a heartbeat, like surrender. And then, the sound of a phone buzzing cut through the silence. Sharp, relentless. Her eyes flew open. She glanced at the phone on the table, screen glowing with a name. One I didn't recognize. The air shattered. The buzzing wouldn't stop. She reached for the phone, fingers trembling in a way her voice never had. She glanced at the screen, and for a split second, her mask slipped. Not anger, not fear, something closer to panic. She pressed decline and set the phone face down. Who was it? I asked. Her pause was too long. No one. I stepped closer. That wasn't no one. Her eyes snapped to mine, sharper than they'd ever been. Drop it. I should have let it go. I didn't. If you're hiding something, of course I'm hiding something, she snapped, louder than I'd ever heard her. The words rang in the small kitchen, breaking the fragile spell between us. I froze, chest tight. She pressed a hand to her forehead, turning away. When she spoke again, her voice had dropped to a rasp. That was my daughter. The air shifted, colder than the rain outside. I stared at her back, stunned. Your daughter. She knows where I am, she whispered. She asked me to check on you. The words didn't make sense at first. Then they did, and they cut deep. Wait, I said, my voice cracking. So tonight, it wasn't about me. It was about her. She turned then, eyes glistening raw. She's worried about you. She thinks you're lonely. She doesn't know how else to reach you, so she asked me. And I said yes, because I thought I could handle it. The floor tilted beneath me. Handle what? Her silence was the answer. I felt heat rise in my chest. Anger, humiliation, something messy I couldn't name. So all of this, I whispered. Me waiting by the window, you knocking on my door, sitting here, it was just charity? No, she said quickly, desperately. She stepped closer, hands half reaching, then pulling back. It wasn't like that. It was never like that. Then what was it? Her lips parted, closed. The silence stretched. I don't know, she said finally, voice breaking. I don't know what this is. I just know I shouldn't want it. The words landed heavy, splitting me open. I laughed once, sharp and bitter. You don't know? Because I do. I've been standing at this cliff for weeks, and you're telling me you didn't even decide if you want to jump? Her eyes shimmered, her jaw trembling. You're too young to throw yourself away on me. And you're too scared to admit you already feel it. I shot back. The rain hammered harder, drowning out the silence that followed. She looked at me then, really looked, like she was memorizing my face before tearing it away. And maybe that was exactly what she was doing, because her hand reached for the phone again, as though the glowing screen was her only escape. Her voice was almost a whisper. If she finds out, it'll ruin everything. And in that moment, I realized the daughter wasn't just her daughter. She was someone I knew. Her words rattled inside me. She was someone I knew. I didn't need her to say it. The puzzle pieces slammed into place, jagged and cruel. Her daughter, Maya, the girl I'd studied with in college, laughed with, drifted from when life scattered us. That's why you won't stay, I said, voice low, bitter. Because of her. She winced, but didn't deny it. The room felt too small, the rain too loud. I turned away, pacing, my breath uneven. All this time, you looked at me like I was some accident waiting to happen. But you kept coming closer anyway. Her hands trembled where she gripped the back of the chair. Because I wanted. She stopped herself, shaking her head. No. Because I was weak. I spun back toward her. No. Don't call it that. Then what do you call it? She snapped. The fire in her eyes burned through the tears threatening to fall. Wanting someone I should never touch? Risking my relationship with my daughter? Risking me. I cut in, my voice breaking. That's what you're scared of. Not her. Not anyone else. Me. Because if you let yourself, if you admit what's already here, then you don't get to pretend you're above it anymore. The words hung heavy, raw, trembling in the air. Her chest rose and fell, her face twisted with the war inside her. For the first time since she'd stepped into my apartment, she looked stripped bare. No careful composure, no shield. Just a woman breaking in front of me. I can't ruin you, she whispered. You won't, I said. My voice softened, steady now. You can't ruin me. You're the only thing keeping me from wasting myself on people who don't see me. You're the first person who actually, I swallowed hard, who makes me feel like I'm not invisible. Her eyes closed at that, a sharp exhale escaping her, like the words had cut her open. She pressed a hand to her mouth, shaking. Then she crossed the space between us. Fast, desperate. Her hand gripped my arm, holding on like she'd fall if she let go. You don't understand, she said against my shoulder, her voice breaking. I've already ruined too many things. I can't. I turned, catching her face in my hands, forcing her to look at me. Her eyes were wet, her lips parted. Then ruin me, I whispered. Because I'm already yours. The silence that followed was electric, unbearable. Her breath mingled with mine. Her forehead leaned against me. She didn't kiss me. I didn't kiss her. Not yet. But her hand slid down, fingers twining with mine. Small, almost trembling, but sure. That was her answer. Not words. Not promises. Just skin against skin, saying, I'm here. For now. For real. The rain outside softened, like it had been waiting for us to break. We stood there, clinging to each other, knowing tomorrow might tear it apart. But tonight, finally, neither of us ran. Morning crept in slowly, pale light seeping through the blinds. The storm had passed, but its smell still lingered. Wet pavement, earth stirred up, a kind of aftertaste in the air. She was still there, sitting on the couch, legs tucked under her, a mug between her hands. She hadn't slept. Neither had I. We hadn't kissed. Not once. But the distance between us was gone, replaced by something heavier, more fragile. I sat down beside her, careful not to brush her knee. For a while, we just listened to the faint dripping outside. She spoke first. Maya called again. I didn't answer. Her voice was calm, but her grip on the mug was too tight. I swallowed. You'll have to tell her. Her eyes flicked toward me, sharp, then softened. I know, but I don't know how. What would I even say? That her friend from college is. She stopped herself, biting her lip. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. You don't have to say anything. Not yet. We don't even know what this is. That stung, but it was true. Her shoulders sagged. You're right. We don't. Silence stretched, thick with everything unsaid. I wanted to reach for her hand again, but I didn't. Not this time. Instead, I asked quietly, do you regret it? Her breath caught. She turned her head, met my eyes. For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then, slowly, she shook her head. No, I regret a lot of things. But not last night. Something loosened in my chest. She set the mug down, stood, and walked to the window. The street was still damp, the world looking newer somehow. She rested a hand on the glass. I'm terrified, she admitted. Of losing her. Of wrecking you. Of waking up one day and realizing I've broken everything. I stood too, moving behind her but not touching. And if we don't try? Her reflection in the glass looked tired, but also, finally, alive. Then we spend the rest of our lives wondering. That was it. The truth neither of us had said until now. I reached out, hesitated, then let my hand rest lightly against hers on the window. She didn't pull away. Her fingers shifted, lacing with mine. We stayed like that, staring out at the wet street, holding on to something that felt like the start of both a promise and a risk. Would it last? Would it end in heartbreak? I didn't know. She didn't either. But for once, we weren't running. We were choosing. And maybe that was enough. So that's the story of the night my neighbor knocked on my door, told me to stay inside, and stayed with me instead. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?